Hello, hi, and how's it going? My name is Connor. 今日の動画では Moon and June の色彩を持たないでについて話してます。So yes, I am finally talking about the newest Moon and June album. I believe this came out back in like the last week of April on Bandcamp and then the first week of May on everything else. So with that said, I am very behind on this review and this upload. And that's because there is just so much fantastic music coming out. Sometimes there are some really good albums that I just do not get a chance to talk about for a very long time, and unfortunately this album is one of those. Now, as I said at the beginning, the name of this album is Shigisai o Motenai de. However, in English, that is called Colorless You, and so because I have messed up that Japanese name about 12 to 15 times so far while recording this video, I'm going to call it by the English name, just for my own sanity. The band is comprised of 5 members. That would include Miho on the vocals and guitar, someone named Su on the guitars as well, someone named Goko on the guitars as well, Kiai is on the bass, and there's someone named Hiroya on the drums. So I think this album starts off incredibly strong. The first 2 songs are called Dance, 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 and also It's Not Over Yet, and I just think that these are fantastic choices for the opening songs for this album. I think instrumentally, these songs are just absolutely great. Aside from that though, every song on this album is just instrumentally fantastic, and I also feel like every song really has its own standout moments too. And so with that said, I really come away with a positive impression of pretty much every song here, and I think it's to the point where I really wouldn't even mind listening to a purely instrumental version of this album, frankly. The songs on this album are just so lush and beautiful and pretty sounding, and that is like exactly the kind of shoegaze that I want to listen to right now. And I also feel like that is really furthered by the album cover too. It's very beautiful, I love the colors, and I also feel like that is really reflected in the actual music itself too. There is this absolutely beautiful instrumental break on the song Colorless You that is like right at the halfway point of the song that I just absolutely love hearing. It is such good shoegaze. And I really have to say that I think having 3 guitarists really just allows for some great experimentation and payoff whenever those guitar melodies hit. However, the downside of that is that because there are so many guitarists, I don't know who to attribute what to. It could be one of 3 people or it could be all of them. So I don't know who is really making the stuff I love here. I would have to maybe assume they're like switching off, but like I just really don't know. One of my favorite aspects of this album is that it sounds like you are floating in some kind of pastel colored cloud or something like that. Now, there is something to me that this album is like absolutely screaming, I am Britpop. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I would still like to walk you through my kind of thought process here. I primarily think I am getting this feeling because a lot of the songs sound like they could be made by the band Modern English. And so of course, I could also attribute a lot of the band's sound to other English bands such as The Cure and also New Order. Like for instance, that title track Colorless You sounds just like a very happy Cure song. There is another song on this album which is titled The Sky Crawlers, and that sounds a lot like Closed Down by The Cure to me as well. Particularly the bass and the drums on that song, it's very similar kind of structure-wise. I wouldn't quite say chord progression-wise, it just structurally feels and sounds like that song. On top of that too, I do kind of get a hint of Blur and Oasis across this whole album as well. I think the prime example of that would probably be their song Zero Gravity Journey. That's kind of what I'm feeling there. I also really feel this way about the lyrics on this album as well. There is just something about the way that the vocals sort of float over the instrumental for the song Dance, Dance, Dance. That is just so classic English rock to me. On top of that too, you also have the lead singer Miho sort of singing about like, oh, come up on stage and dance with me, dance, dance, dance. It might be scary, but come dance, dance, dance. And that really feels like almost a The Smiths kind of line to me. Maybe even David Bowie too. I still kind of have to feel that out. Speaking of lyricism, this album is so lyrically colorful. Like I said, lots of pastel colors and emotions and like phrases and sayings. It's wonderful. One of the songs on this album is called It's Not Over Yet, and this song really feels like it was almost made in response to the art on the cover, where this feels very evocative of the scene and the colors and the imagery of the cover. On this song too, I do also like the constant refrain of lyrics that are something like, the end roll is over, but that sort of hopefulness about love and relationships is something that is very common across this entire album. And so with that said, I do really feel like these songs are just really full of, I guess, lyricism like that. By that I mean it's a lot of feelings of like, you may leave or disappear, but we can still be together now or eventually. So by now it should be obvious that I love the instrumental, and I love the lyricism. I do have a really major con that I need to talk about as well. And I would say that this is really my only issue with the album. That problem is that a lot of the songs sound very overproduced. This particularly really pertains to the quality of the vocals, I find. I just think that there's too many vocal effects placed on them, and there's way too much vocal layering as well. This particularly stood out to me because I am a longtime fan of the band who is very familiar with their other releases. I love the song The Skycrawlers, but you know what? Miho sounds like she's singing from like the other end of a sewer tunnel or something. It just sounds so weird and odd, and it's hard to make out what she's saying. I also keep talking about the title track of this album, so let's use that as an example too. This song is so weird in that at the 3-minute and 39-second mark, Miho's vocals sound like they're being squeezed to death. No. Seriously, close your eyes and focus on the note she is holding out. Like, what is going on there? It sounds so weird. I know it's maybe not easy to pick up just because there is so much happening on that song instrumentally, but like, I can pick it up, and I wasn't really focusing on it all that hard, I feel like. It almost sounds to me like the recording is like rippling as it cuts in and out as she's holding out this note. It's very strange. I don't know why it's engineered this way. What I will say is that this is probably the most extreme example on the album. However, I do mention it just because I think it's the easiest to actually notice on the album. And also you might say, well, Connor, lots of Japanese shoegaze albums have come out this year, and a lot of them are, you know, mixed and sound a lot like what you're describing. And you know what? Sure, maybe that is true. But I think Moon and June really just takes it a step further in this kind of downward direction. Oh yeah, and so with that said, my score is a 7 out of 10. I almost forgot that part. So now again, I really do like pretty much every song here. It's just that vocal thing is just really irking me and really detracting from the whole experience, in my opinion. Their older songs aren't really like this to this degree. I just don't really know what happened on this project. I guess one other negative you could say that I have about this album, even though it's not major in the slightest, is that this album sounds a lot less dancey than pretty much any of their prior EPs or their one other album. I say this because it seems like to me that a lot of the songs on this album are just a lot slower paced, and so for that reason they are more like ballroom shoegaze ballads as opposed to like dance hall shoegaze bops, you know? Here is what I will say though, right? I listen to a lot of music, particularly a lot of shoegaze. Shoegaze that is happy, and also shoegaze that is like in the muck and mire, like sad. With that said, I still think that this is probably my like third favorite shoegaze album of the year from Japan. What are my two other favorites? Well, you're gonna have to watch this video or this video to find out. Gotcha. And also I should mention that I do love the Blurred City Lights 2 EPs from this year. However, those are EPs, they are not a whole album, so I'm not counting it in that list. So this album is really good. I really like it. I think if you can overlook my very strange nitpicks with the vocal recording and mixing on this album, you would probably like it a whole ton. Additionally, I think if you like shoegaze in any form, you will like this album a lot. Though I will say, you have to specifically really enjoy happy shoegaze and not the sad shoegaze, because this is not sad shoegaze. This is, I'm happy to be alive and in love sort of shoegaze. And yeah, those are my thoughts on this album. I have sat with this for months now. I've listened to it 15, 20 times, and this is really how I feel, and I think this is how I will feel going forward about this album too. I don't know, I just don't like the mixing and the overproduction on some of these songs. It's just weird to me. I am just going to assume that you probably have a score higher than me. I still feel like a 7 out of 10 is fair for my nitpicks with this album, and I think that my nitpicks for me will probably not be ones for you. And so if you want to tell me why I'm wrong, you can either do so in the comments here, on Twitter, wherever you want, I guess. So thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear what you think, like I said, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.